Action.
Welcome back to another episode of What's the Vibe with Kadi and Amy. It's Monday.
Happy Monday. You scared me for a minute.
She's like, where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? What time is it?
What world am I in? It's Friday for us, but it's actually Monday.
Monday for these guys. So yes, happy Monday. Thanks for tuning in to last week's episode. We have no updates.
Nope. We literally just changed our shirts. It's not a bad deal. I gotta knock another one out.
Does that defeat the purpose of changing our shirts?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I have one question only. What is the vibe?
Okay. My vibe this week comes from a listener suggestion.
Oh.
Mr. Drew Samuels suggested that I cover this story, so I'm going to try my hardest. The vibe is England.
Oh, cheerio.
And the vibe is wrestling. You could probably have guessed.
Okay, I was waiting for you to say that.
So I'll get right to it. And it's going to be December, I think, by the time this one airs. And the Von Erich Curse of the Iron Claw movie is coming. So, just back in the wrestling mood, okay?
If you would have asked me a year ago if I would have been into the Iron Claw movie, I would have been like, no, who do you think I am? But I'm so pumped.
Yeah, you got us there, didn't you?
Yeah, you did.
So, I got most of this information, Katie, from a documentary called The Gentleman's Choice.
Okay.
And it was not an easy documentary to find.
Really?
No, I had to watch it on Facebook.
What?
Yes.
I never would even think to look it up on Facebook.
Another story that I have to tell you, I was searching, so I knew there was a made-for-TV movie about it. Not this one, but another one that I'm going to tell you next. And I was like, I wonder if there's remember that, what's it called? Something The Ring. It's on Netflix.
Yes. Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring, yes. I was like, maybe there's a Dark Side of the Ring about this. I could not find one.
Oh.
And then I'm like, well, maybe I can find something on YouTube or something. And then it told me about this documentary, and only place I could find to watch it was somebody had posted it on their Facebook. So I sat and watched it off of their freaking Facebook.
Okay, I mean, get it, I guess.
So, this is the story of Chris Adams, also called The Gentleman.
The Gentleman.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can tell me if you think he was a gentleman or not as we go.
Okay.
So Adams was the eldest child of Cyril and Jean Adams, and he was born in Rugby, Warwickshire, which is in England. That's why I have the accent.
Keep going as long as you can.
It's not very British, but I'm trying. So he started out as a youngster interested in judo.
Okay.
And so was his brother, so was his dad. It was like a family thing. And he actually, both Chris and his brother Neil both won judo championships during one part of their childhood. They won multiple, but at one point they had both won in their different categories. And so mom and dad were super pumped.
I don't know if you know, is judo similar to what? Because I know there's karate and wrestling.
I would compare it to karate, I guess.
Okay.
And that's just off the cuff.
Okay, that's what I was kind of thinking.
But Chris's signature move was the super kick. And originally it was called the judo kick.
Okay.
So I don't know why I'm doing that.
I don't know if it's a kick.
I don't know. I just felt like doing that.
Okay.
Chris was really smart too. He went to school to be an architect.
Okay.
And as a young adult, he got a good job doing architectural work.
That's so weird. Another architect?
Yeah, I know. We talk. And that's not something we say all the time.
No, I think this is the first time we've ever discussed architects on the podcast.
Back to back. So, he comes home one day, though, after his job as an architect, and he tells his mom and dad, and he's like, hey, I'm sitting down, I gotta tell you that. What was it called? Is it John?
And they said, pip, pip, Cheerios.
Exactly. They were like, is it about the king? No, they didn't say any of that. That was all made up quotes. And he said, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And just next week, you'll see me on TV. And so he quit his job as an architect to pursue professional wrestling in England.
On TV?
And he was televised? And the next week, he literally was on TV. Like, he took off really fast.
What would you do if you got home from work today and Josiah sat you down and was like, hey, I know we talked. I'm getting a job, and next week I want you to be there at my job. It's going to be televised.
Like,
and I'm going to
Does it pay? Does it pay, sir?
And he'll say, chip, chip, Cheerios.
Yes, I would say it's fine. So his wrestling career is doing well. I told you that. And he liked it. And his family was supportive of him, to answer that question.
Crazy.
One good thing about Chris is, first of all, he was really handsome, according, the public thought he was really handsome.
Sure.
And then he had this British accent. So when he made it over to America, that was,
Everybody loves the accent.
Yes. And he loved the ladies.
Sorry, it was just the way you said
He did.
He loved the ladies.
He met his first wife, Jeannie Adams, at one of the events. He then decides to take his career to America. And he was almost immediately a hit in America, too. And this is the same time that the Von Erichs are huge and taking off.
Okay, so this was like in the 70s and 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd think I'd have a year, but
That's okay. I think that's when the Von Erichs
It was like mid 80s.
Okay.
Yes. During this time, wrestling as a hobby or an interest for the people is exploding.
Okay, yes. Like it's getting bigger.
Yes. And he was friends with the Von Erichs, but they were controlling the main events. They were super popular.
Okay.
They were related. So Chris, he's also business savvy. And he's like, if I want to be a main event wrestler, then I've got to be a bad guy.
Okay.
So that he can be wrestling them. Even if he's not the good guy, he just wants to be the main event.
Right.
So this begins his bad guy era.
What? He's in his bad guy era.
He's in his bad guy era. And he asks, like, his manager, the guy behind the scenes, he's like, how am I going to get everybody to go from loving me to hating me?
Right.
And Chris, anytime he would come out, like coming down the ring, he would hug and kiss the ladies, and he was the gentleman.
Okay.
And they said, okay, well, when you do your interview, just say you're not going to kiss fat women no more. So that's what he says. And guess what? That does it. You're an asshole. You're a dick.
That's all it took.
That's all it took.
Everybody, wow. Yeah. So
he's doing good in wrestling, even as the bad guy. That's making money.
Right.
There's an art to that. And he was really good with his persona, and he could get the crowd really riled up and engaged with him. But everything kind of started to go downhill after this one incident here in 1986. In the mid 80s and early 90s, and probably still today. I mean, we could ask the guys on the other ship for some help on that. But these guys were traveling everywhere. I mean,
everywhere. They couldn't stop traveling.
Everywhere in the United States, but also overseas and all this.
Okay.
So it's 1986, and a lot of the wrestlers are on this airplane. And it is coming from overseas because they're going to be across the ocean.
Okay.
But the plane had issues. And so after takeoff, it had to turn around and go back and land so that they could do some mechanical stuff on it. So I think this was a bad decision. But the airline said, we're so sorry for the inconvenience. Drinks on us.
Drinks Any drink, alcohol drink?
Booze on us. Yeah, open bar. And a lot of the wrestlers, and Kevin Von Erich is on this flight too, which, oh my gosh, speaking of Kevin Von Erich, he was in the documentary that I watched on Facebook. Oh. Katie, you've got to look this up just because it's so funny. He gave his entire, like, commentary from a hot tub.
What?
But he had a lot of complimentary things to say about Chris. How smart he was, how much of a good friend he was. And they beat the shit out of each other. Yeah. So Kevin's on this plane too, but he's asleep. He's not up partaking. So a lot of the wrestlers, once they landed, were going to have to wrestle in a few hours.
Okay, so drinks probably aren't the best idea. Well, maybe one.
So those that had to wrestle just had a couple of beers.
Okay.
But Chris Adams did not have to. He wasn't on the venue, or he wasn't on
the roster.
He wasn't on the roster. Thank you for that night. So he's like, light him up.
Okay.
And he's just throwing him back. And he's getting drunker and drunker and drunker. And the stewardess comes up and is like, hey, I know we said bottomless mimosa, sir, but
you've reached the bottom.
Hit the bottom. Yeah. And we're not going to serve you anymore. And he's like, do you know who I am? No. Do you know how much money I make? You are going to serve me. And called her a bad word.
Oh, a bad word.
The worst word, the C word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she goes and gets a steward.
Like a steward instead of a stewardess.
Yes. Hey, you see that 250
I was going to say, is this man like a traditional wrestler?
Yes.
He's massive, right?
Yes. And he's with 17 massive guys.
Right.
I don't know how many, a lot. So the steward goes back and is like, oh, sir. Sorry. You know what she said? Yeah, we can't serve anymore. He's like, BS. Indirect quote. BS, go get me another beer. Go get me another shot. So they're like, this is not working out. He will not calm down.
Are they in the air?
They are in the air.
Okay.
They are over the ocean.
They are soaring above the clouds.
The co-captain is notified. And so he's like, I'll go back and talk to him. So he goes back and he's kind of, I think he's taking a little bit of a macho stance.
Okay.
And he tells him, you're cut off. I have the authority to have you arrested when we land this plane.
Yeah.
So Chris Adams stands up, grabs him by his shirt, his collars, and freaking headbutts.
Stop.
Right on the bridge of his nose. And blood just flies everywhere.
I'm really surprised to hear, maybe this did happen, that none of his, I would assume he's friends with the other wrestlers that are out and about. None of the rest of them are like, hey, Chris, like, calm down.
Yes,
like,
they were.
Give it a break.
They were, Katie, but they said that Chris kind of had this side where when he flipped that switch and he just got this crazy look in his eyes that he wasn't going to stop.
He had his mind.
And they were telling him, like, you're going to give it me.
Yeah.
This is bad. So then after the co-pilot's getting this shit kicked out of him and there's blood flying everywhere, somebody wakes up Kevin Von Erich.
Okay.
And he goes back there and he kind of, is able to get his buddy back in the seat and he's telling him, oh, this is bad. This is so bad. So they actually go in the bathroom and change shirts. So, like, maybe when they get off the plane, nobody's going to... Which one of you was it?
You just reminded me of a TikTok. Have you seen the one where they're like, we both wore our hair in claw clips today, and people keep confusing us for the other. And then it's like, it would be like me and the doctor at work, like two completely opposite people.
I have seen that. We did our hair the same. And it'll be like a white friend and a black friend.
Yes. And they're like, let's switch shirts.
Yeah.
And they'll never,
they will not catch on. Well, it didn't work.
Okay.
So,
dang.
Spoiled that plan. So, Kevin was arrested, and he did go to prison for a short amount.
Kevin?
I'm sorry.
I was like, we missed that part of the movie.
Chris Adams, the gentleman, was arrested. And he did go to prison for a short amount of time. It was either 6 months or 2 years. Because in the documentary, they literally said both things. I even rewound it. I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, fair.
While he was in prison, he wrote his parents and talked about, how alcohol's a problem for him.
Okay.
He was going to AA classes in there, and he really was trying to kind of turn his life around. So for that time, he really talks about being more settled, and he has 3 kids that he's at this point that he's trying to be a father to. But he struggles to get where he wants to. And he is arrested again for assaulting his second wife, Toni. Also during this time, he's still wrestling and his career is still doing good. But then he was arrested because he stomped a desk clerk in a hotel so bad in Israel that he had to get reconstructive surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but he's always battling this addiction and these rage episodes. I assume there was probably some steroid use going on too, and that can make you really angry. It didn't say that anywhere in the documentary, but
I mean, for the time, for wrestling being popular and that putting more pressure on the wrestlers, yeah, it makes sense.
So then he does something that I did not see coming in the documentary.
Okay.
He starts Gentleman Chris Adams Professional Wrestling Coaching Class, where he advertises that anywhere between 9 months and 2 years, you can sign up, take his classes, and he'll make you a professional wrestler.
Okay.
He even speaks about the character that you choose and how it should be an extension of your natural personality.
Okay.
So that made me think, I was going to ask you, what would your wrestling character's vibe be?
I have no idea. I don't watch enough wrestling to know, but I've seen some really far out there characters.
Oh yeah.
What would your wrestling character be like?
I would want to do something kind of witchy, I think,
I could see you being very goth.
I would like to be goth,
like all
too.
Black.
There is a goth
attire.
female character that they have right now. Oh my gosh, Drew, help me with her name, but she's really cool.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I really don't know.
I know. You have to think about. I mean, you're a good problem solver, but what kind of wrestler would that be? Me, Captain Problem Solver.
Oh, right.
You got a problem? Yo, I'll fix it.
Okay, I guess I'm the problem solver then.
But Gentleman Chris Adams, he was really good at engaging with the audience and creating that buzz, whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. And he was teaching that at school. One of his students, and this name may mean nothing to you, Katie, was Stunning Steve Austin.
That name does mean a little something to me.
He later became Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes. So he turned out a big name from there.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Is that the same guy that plays on Disney Channel, right?
Oh, and there's Dad preparing for another day's work. He kills bugs for a living.
Honey, come on. We've been through this. I don't kill bugs. I'm a pest control specialist.
But I did know the name Stone Cold Steve Austin before he was on Disney.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because he was big.
Yeah.
Steve didn't have very many nice things to say about Chris in later years. And he actually married his first wife, Jeannie.
Stone Cold Steve Austin married Gentleman Chris's first wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So now Chris is doing the occasional wrestling. He's got the wrestling school, and now he is also doing independent promoter stuff for the guys.
Okay.
And he's doing okay with all of it.
But he's no longer wrestling.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes. But he is still battling.
Okay.
When he gets introduced, because he also likes to go to the strip clubs. Okay, who doesn't?
Yeah, fair enough.
To a drug called GHB, or vape drug.
Yeah.
But did you, which I didn't know this, during this time, so this is what, late 80s, You could buy GHB at the health food store at GHB.
What?
Yes.
No, I did not.
Yes. They were
Thank you. You're going to tell me.
No, I was.
For what?
They were marketing it as like a human growth hormone. Because it has some of the same components, but it's not anabolic, so it doesn't stay. It doesn't really help you. Girl, I'm no chemist, but it wasn't what they thought it was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ah.
So in the documentary, they talk about how if you already have like problems with alcohol and other drugs, GHB just sucks you in.
Really?
It just grabs a hold of you. And he was definitely addicted. And one night he overdosed. And he was with somebody, thank goodness. Oh, some woman. They didn't say who in the documentary. And she calls 911 and they come and get him and they take him to the hospital. Katie, he's so out of it. They intubate him, they put a tube down his throat. Well, apparently, again, I don't know a whole lot about GHB, but this is what they said in this documentary I was watching, that after 4 hours, the effects just are gone.
What?
Gone. So he's like basically in a coma, got this tube breathing for him down his throat, and in 4 hours, he just wakes up, pulls it out, gets dressed, and leaves.
You don't just get up after being intubated.
You do if you are the gentleman.
Oh my god.
I know.
Oh wow. Okay.
So,
what?
I know. So in 2000, according to almost everyone in this documentary, he met a woman that he was just crazy about. And her name was, and I'll probably mispronounce it, but Linda Kapengest, Kaphenggst. Oh, I have a picture of her because she's so cute.
Okay.
I can text this to you for editing purposes.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
Yeah, she's just a little bitty thing and she's really cute. And in the documentary, it said she was I want to say an insurance secretary or something. But then they bust out this guy. Okay. And he's like his lower third, like where they put like, Todd and then how they know it. It might be like,
okay.
It might be like Kevin Von Erich, professional wrestler.
Right.
Okay. This just says this guy's name. And then it says junior high school classmate. Don't you ever go talk to them at my junior high.
No.
They don't know me.
Exactly.
So anyways, his junior high classmate, and he's like, Linda was really popular and she was really pretty and she was a cheerleader in school. But somebody told me she was working here at the fair, this gentleman's strip club. So I don't know where he really met her, but
okay.
Regardless, he was crazy about her.
Okay, that's all that matters.
So they started a romantic relationship that lasted 4 months. And the reason why it lasted only 4 months, I'm going to tell you. This is what Chris said about her. I thought she was an angel from heaven. I felt absolutely crazy in love with her, he said. So one night they're out drinking.
Okay.
And at this time, Chris has just split up from like his third wife. I know, I've skipped around. He's gotten around with the ladies. I told you he loved the ladies.
You did say that at the very beginning.
So he's kind of in between places, and he is staying with his long-term friend. His name is Brent Boo-Ray, is what everybody calls him.
Boo-Ray?
Parnell.
Oh, he went by Boo-Ray.
Yeah, Boo-Ray, like was his wrestling name.
Okay.
I'm going to call him Boo-Ray the rest of this time.
Okay.
So him and Chris and Linda are out drinking. And Chris is kind of in between places because he just broke up with his last wife. And so he calls Boo-Ray and it was like, hey, me and Linda are partying. You care if we come over? And he's like, no, come on over. So they get over there and Boo-Ray has a drink with them. And then they're getting kind of lovey-dovey.
Chris and Linda?
Chris and Linda,
okay.
Yeah. So Boo-Ray's like, you guys have fun. I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you tomorrow or whatever. So he goes to bed, but then he wakes up and it's really really quiet in his house. So he goes into the dining room, and Linda's just like laying on the floor, and Chris is like slumped over a chair, like got his arm over the chair, and they're both just out. And he's like, Boo Ray's like, hey guys, is everything okay? And they will not wake up.
Oh no.
So he kind of messes around for a little bit, like watching them breathe and like making sure they're doing okay. And then he just has like this feeling like something's not right. So he calls 911, and at some point, Linda does stop breathing. So the 911 operator is walking Boo Ray through how to do CPR,
Okay.
and he keeps it going until the ambulance gets there. And paramedics take over, they get him to the hospital. Chris wakes up the next day, and he's told, that Linda's in the hospital. But what he later learns is she is brain.
Chris is not in the hospital.
He was for a little bit, but
Okay.
he was pretty much fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So her family makes the decision to take her off of life support, and she does pass, and it crushes him. I mean, according to the documentary, although he does get married again in a few months, so. The gentleman, that's a gentleman.
That's right. Gotta do what a gentleman gotta do.
So initially no charges were filed because they didn't find any foul play. But a former rival's wife just started making a fuss and allegations that he murdered her via GHB. She would go like on their online forums and make posts about it. She was calling the police and saying it. Yeah. And he's very depressed and rumored to be suicidal.
I mean, if he lost somebody that he loved and he's battling addiction, that makes sense.
Yeah. So they do convince him to go into rehab, and he stays there for a while. After release, he was still not stable. And then he is indicted on one count of manslaughter.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. Somewhere, though, he finds the time to meet this woman named Kathy. named Karen. And they get married, and this is his fourth wife. So, varying reports on this as well. Some said he was so in love and so happy to be married to Kathy. She had a couple of kids. He loved being a part of their life. Others said that because of this, murder trial,
right,
manslaughter trial that's about to come up, that they weren't having him on wrestling shows.
Oh.
It was just their sponsorships weren't going for it.
I mean, no way.
Right. So Karen's getting up and going to work every morning, and Chris is just there like getting the kids off to school and cleaning the house. And he just is not feeling very happy about that.
He's living my dream.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, housewife. Drop those kids off at school. So, on October 7th, 2001, he goes to Boo Ray's house, Brett Parnell. And allegedly he went there to like borrow some money to go talk to an attorney or something, but they ended up just hanging out.
Okay. He forgot why he was there.
Yeah, the GHB will do that to you.
Fair.
It says they're working on future shows, and they decide to take a break and watch a movie. Then there is some sort of disagreement that happens between Boo Ray and Chris Adams. And keep in mind, Boo Ray has been his long-term friend. He was best man at one of his weddings. One of them. Maybe two.
I didn't know if you were going to say all of them.
No, at least one.
Okay, at least one.
And he was like his driver. They just have been friends for a long, long time. They have been roommates.
Okay.
So, the one version of the fight that broke out is from Boo Ray. And he said he thinks it was because Boo Ray's mom and aunt were there staying. And Chris was being really, really loud. So Boo Ray got up and kind of shut the door to the room they were in. And he was like, man, you gotta quiet down. You're going to wake up mom.
Right.
And that just pissed him off.
Okay.
So, and they had both been drinking that day. So then they're like fighting around the room because Chris like physically attacks them.
Both wrestlers?
Both wrestlers.
Oh.
Both big old men. And then they bump into a window and like knock 5 or 6 window panes out.
Oh no.
And Boo Ray's cut his arm.
Yeah.
So then they like get spun around. And somehow Chris lands on top of his friend Boo Ray on the bed. And Boo Ray said he was like gouging his eyes, like trying to poke his eyeballs out. Yeah. And then bit him on the face. And then went to like choke him out. And he said he started to lose consciousness. And he looked over on the nightstand and he always keeps a pistol right there. So he picked it up and like bashed him on the head like 3 or 4 times. To try to like get him to stop. And he said it was like, didn't even phase him.
What? He was just in a blind rage, it sounds like.
Yes. So he shoots him right in the chest.
Oh.
And that is the death of Chris Adams. In the documentary, it kind of cut back to Kevin Von Erich. And he spoke Kevin Von Erich just seems like the nicest guy in the whole freaking world.
I've seen some like videos on him, and I saw Zac Efron said the exact same thing. He does seem like a really like laid back, just collected, cool guy.
Because here this tragedy has happened, and he's friends with Chris Adams, and apparently he was friends with Boo Ray too, because he just had the nicest things to say about him too, like how hard that had to have been on him, and what a great friend he was, and how the whole thing's just tragic. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if there's any Chris Adams, the like, gentleman, portrayed in the movie.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, wow. I've not heard of him, but I am interested. I will go and research him later.
My mission is accomplished.
No. Oh, wow.
So, shout out to the other ship. If you don't watch them, freaking get over there. They're the best. Only person nicer than Kevin Von Erich is Drew Samuels.
Yes, I love that.
What is your vibe, Katie?
My vibe is totally random.
Okay, love it. Love it.
The vibe is aliens. The vibe is unsolved mysteries. The vibe is UFOs.
Okay.
And the vibe is friends.
Like friends with the aliens?
Like friends, like me and you are friends. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about 4 friends and their experience with UFOs. But before that, I just wanted to give you just a little bit of information about UFOs. Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
I know we've talked about it a little bit before. Yeah, so do I. So the first well-known and like really documented sighting of UFOs goes back to 1947. And I'll read this little bit that I found online. It says, the first well-known UFO sighting occurred in 1947 when businessman Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a group of 9 high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington while flying his small plane. He estimated the speed of the crescent-shaped objects as several thousand miles per hour. When they moved, it was like saucers skipping on water. In the newspaper report that followed, it was mistakenly stated that the objects were saucer-shaped, hence the term flying saucer. Between 1947 and 1969, there were a total of 12,618 sightings.
Hey, what about those? I saw one. I didn't even report it, so make that 19.
Right. They were able to dwindle down most of those between finding sightings that were caused by balloons or aircrafts, lightning or reflections, or even some people just being confused about what the stars were. To this day, 701 of those sightings remain unsolved. And there are thousands of spottings each year. So, 4 friends include twins, Jack and Jim, and then their friends, Chuck and Charlie.
Okay. Jack and Jim and Chuck and Charlie. Are Chuck and Charlie the same person?
No, they're not. They're not.
Okay.
So in 1976, I believe they had just graduated college, so they're adult men.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 of them decide to spend 2 weeks in the Allagash Wilderness in Maine. Okay. It's a very wooded state park with lakes, ponds, and rivers. And it's pretty much when you hear the word wilderness, like wilderness to me is not just like Turkey Run.
Right.
It's like mountains and streams and bears and moose and like you're in
and I always think something thicker too, like you can almost barely walk through.
Right. So that's kind of what this state park is like in Maine. Okay. So it's the second night of the trip. And they're out camping or whatever. And Jim, is that his name? Jim! Jack, Jim, Chuck, and Charlie.
One of the twins.
One of the twins, Jim, notices a really bright object in the sky. And this is what he says. It was floating just above the treetops. Didn't seem to be moving in any direction. And when I looked at it through binoculars for maybe 15 to 30 seconds, it was suddenly winked out from the outside edges inward. I mean, it literally just went whoop, like that, and it was gone. So it just like moved.
Okay.
There was something about this thing that left me with an odd feeling that wasn't quite right, but I didn't really dwell on it. So he was like,
that's weird.
Noted, but moving on, we're camping. Like, we're having a guy's trip. So they kept on with their trip. The 4th night, they decided that they were going to do some night fishing.
Okay.
And so they hike to their new campsite. They build a great big fire, and they take this like really giant aluminum canoe, and the 4 men are in there, and they go out on the water to go fishing. When they're out on the water, it's very quick. When Chuck is like, guys, I feel like we're not alone. Like, I feel like there's other people out here. I feel like there maybe is another group close by or something, but something's just not right.
Isolated, stump-filled swamp. It was a perfect spot for night fishing. It was also the place where their lives would change forever.
And he said he felt like something was staring at him from behind. Like, and when you get that feeling, it's very, even if there's not somebody looking at you. He's quoted as saying, I turned over my right shoulder, and just like that, I saw a large, round globe of light that looked exactly what we had seen 2 nights ago. Jim said he saw it as well. They described it as looking like a miniature sun. It was really, really bright. It was at the top of the trees, and when the light was shining,
when the light was
lighted, it was like daylight.
Oh, whoa.
Like it was that bright. Okay. Then, like, one after the other, they had all started to notice that the other was noticing it, and they were all paying attention. What would you even do? Like, if you were in the middle of the wilderness, and suddenly...
I would feel stalked, because now it's back.
Right. So, what did they decide to do? they're like, let's send it a signal.
Oh, gosh. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, let's row back to the shore and get the freak out of here.
Right, thank you.
Men. So fearless.
Right. So Charlie picks up a flashlight, and I wouldn't even be able to do this if I tried, and he starts signaling SOS. Which, how do you do that? Is that just like off, on, off, on,
I
off
have
3 times?
no idea. Is there a Morse code for it?
I don't. With a flashlight?
The flashlight. We was spelling it.
Why would you draw more attention? I would be panicked.
Yeah. I'd be like, turtle.
I'd be,
Get in the bottom of the
thank
canoe.
you.
Let's creep on out of here.
Tackling Charlie to get the flashlight out of his hands. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, what happened when they started to signal the SOS, but noticing that the light was getting closer.
Oh. Oh my gosh. No, thank you.
So now they're getting a little bit panicked.
Okay.
Okay, they're just, they gotta get out of there. Charlie drops the flashlight, and they say that the only thing going through their mind is get to shore. Go to the campsite, get to shore, like, whatever's happening, it's not happening in the middle of the water.
Yeah, no kidding.
So they all start paddling back to shore, and they keep watching as this light is getting closer and closer and closer.
Oh my goodness.
And they're panicking, and they're paddling faster and faster and faster. By the time they make it to the shore, Jim turns around, and what happened to the light? He is quoted, another quote, as saying, all of a sudden it streaked away very, very fast until it looked like just another star in the sky. But something that's weird is, so they built a campfire, they got in their canoe, and they went out to the water. They were not out there for more than 15 minutes, and they said they built a bonfire. And when they got back, their fire was pretty much out.
What?
Practically coals.
Whoa. That's weird. Did the aliens stop by them?
They're marshmallows. What? So they get back to campsite, and they're all weirded out and think they don't talk about it. They're just like, okay, we're going to bed.
Good night.
And they each get in their tents and their little sleeping bags, and they go to sleep. What happens the next morning?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Nothing.
Okay.
So they continue with their trip for the next 10 days, Amy, and nothing else happens.
Okay.
When they get home, they start telling people, we saw a UFO. There's something out in the Allagash. I just know. Nobody believes them. Everybody thinks they're making it up. It's a hoax. No. But not long after they get home, Jim and Jack start having nightmares. And I'm going to read you this quote.
Oh my god, that gives me goosebumps.
About what one of them said their nightmare was about.
Okay.
I was starting to have nightmares, really terrible nightmares that I could not explain. I found myself in a very brightly lit room. I had no idea where I was or why I was there. To my left, I could see my brother Jim, Chuck, and Charlie sitting on some type of bench, and they were all naked. I was wondering why they weren't helping me because I felt like I was in danger. When I'm trying to figure this out, I noticed this figure, or a dark shadowy type figure, emerging from this light, this bright light in front of me. I wake up, sweating and breathing heavily, and just in a state of terror or shock. So one twin had this dream, and then the other twin had the exact same dream. So they're starting to get freaked out, and they're connecting it back to the light.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim decides, I'm going to call up a UFO researcher.
Okay.
Guess I never even thought about that being
No.
a thing.
No.
No.
Can I just Google that? Call
I guess. They found one by the name of Ray Fowler. And Ray suggested that the men undergo hypnosis to help recover some of the details of what they saw. So they all go through hypnosis. They all share, while under hypnosis, similar, terrifying, repressed memories about being abducted by this UFO.
Oh my gosh.
They would also be asked while they're hypnotized to draw out like what they remember and what they see. And pretty much what each of them drew in different fashions was them all being taken aboard this aircraft, stripped naked, and having medical exams conducted by aliens, including samples of their skin and their bodily fluids.
Ew.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Then, after the hypnosis sessions, they were all more freaked out because you remembered what I remembered, what he remembered, what they were remembering.
They were abducted.
Did this happen to us?
Oh my God.
They would go on to each take a polygraph test and all pass. A lot of people say that they're just repressing memories of like an old movie or old TV shows or something that maybe scared them as a child that they're remembering now. There's no way they could have been taken by a UFO or aliens. Years later, in 2016, Chuck came forward saying that part of the story that they shared was made up.
Oh.
But not which part. He said that he does maintain that he saw that light and everything that happened with the light was true. But whatever this part was, they made up for financial gain.
Okay.
His friends and some other people say that he was just so scared and freaked out by what had happened to him. He came forward saying that it was a lie to like get pressure off of him to like not let the aliens know that he was telling the
Somebody
truth.
tell the aliens that I'm recanted.
Yes. Other people say that I only read like 2 or 3, but have said that they've seen strange lights in the Allagash wilderness.
Oh my gosh.
So I just thought their story was kind of interesting. How do you just see this creepy light, signal it, and then start having these repressed dreams and
really
memories?
Crazy. I mean, I'm surprised they were returned, unless the aliens. I'm taking this serious.
Okay.
Unless the aliens have figured out how to. They're giving out GHB, so you don't remember anything.
Right. Well, I did see. So I found this. I've had this for a long time. I found it when I was looking at the Globlobs. So this was also an Unsolved Mysteries. But on Unsolved Mysteries, whenever you read a story, there's a thread after it. And anybody can comment on it. And some people will say, I know so-and-so. I believe this truly happened to them. I experienced this, this, and this. So some people in the thread were saying that these aliens, other people have experienced, and they're called grayskins.
Ooh.
And that the reason that they took them and performed these medical exams and were taking these samples is because they can no longer reproduce.
Oh, great. So these guys have alien babies up there.
They might. Half alien, half human. I mean, I don't know. The comments on the Unsolved Mysteries can get a little wild.
I might check those out, but that sounds like it's for me.
I think it might be.
That's cool. All right. We did another one.
Yes, we did.
Thanks for watching another episode of What's the Vibe with Kadi and Amy. Don't forget to like and share and comment below. Have a great Monday.